The silence of the night, the rustling of the cold winds and the heaviness of the castle blended into a sorrowful secret that was swallowing Isabel's body and soul. She was just a child, and a heavy step of history was being taken upon her. As she neared the door, her breaths grew deep and rapid, as if a moment had arrived that she could not escape. She had no idea about the fate hidden within the walls of the castle, but she knew that from this day onward, whatever she would become, she would no longer be just a face, but a political commodity, and the guarantee of this commodity was not a shining crown, nor a tale of bravery, but the innocence of a child, bought by history at a price. This story takes place in an ancient castle in the winter of France. In the year 1396, the candlelight flickers on the crumbling walls, its light bending through the drafts that slip beneath the tapestries. In a small echoing room, a child stands still while her attendants prepare her for the night that the world will remember only in whispers. Her name is Isabelle Valois, and she is just 12 years old. Her attendants brush her long hair until it shines like spun glass, softly murmuring prayers she cannot quite hear over the pounding of her own heart. They dress her in white, a linen shift far too heavy for her small frame, and crown her with a veil that smells faintly of lavender and candle wax. Outside, the wind claws at the castle walls, and inside, the air is suffocating with the weight of ceremony. Down below in the great hall her husband waits, King Richard II of England. He is 29, a man whose youth has already been buried beneath grief. His first wife, Anne of Bohemia, has passed away, and he mourned her so deeply that all of England seemed to wear black with him. But grief is a luxury kings cannot afford for long. Peace is more valuable, and so the kingdoms of England and France have struck a bargain sealed not with ink, but with flesh. This marriage, this treaty, this exchange of a child for a promise must be made unbreakable, and to ensure that no future pope, council, or rival monarch can question its legitimacy, the consummation must be witnessed, verified, and recorded, not just once, not just for one night, but for 7 days. This is not a wedding night. It is captivity sanctified by ritual. This is the dark math of medieval politics, where a girl's body becomes a document and her suffering becomes evidence. What happened in that room, understand this. Everything is real. It is drawn from chronicles, royal ledgers, medical texts, and clerical accounts written not in metaphor, but in ink that has survived centuries. What you are about to learn was considered civilized procedure. It was the extended bedding, the 7-day verification, a ritual designed to eliminate doubt and, along with it, compassion. In medieval Europe, marriage among the powerful had nothing to do with affection. It was a transaction, a treaty, an insurance policy bound in blood. The union between kingdoms had to produce heirs to keep peace alive, but the fear of failure haunted every throne. What if the bride couldn't conceive? What if the marriage was annulled? What if an unverified consummation gave enemies grounds to call the alliance a lie? So they invented a system to remove uncertainty, and with it they removed compassion. A typical noble wedding night was already cruel by modern standards. The bride and groom were led to bed in the presence of their attendants, their clothes stripped in front of witnesses, and they were placed beneath the sheets while priests blessed the act about to follow. When the stakes were higher, when a treaty depended on conception, or when the bride was too young to bear the proof, the ritual was prolonged. 7 days, 7 nights, no privacy, no escape. This practice is mentioned in several surviving documents. Physicians from the French court describe it clinically, as if documenting an experiment. Guards were stationed outside the room. Religious and royal officials entered at scheduled intervals. Attendants brought trays of food and clean linens, and physicians examined the couple twice daily to ensure that the union had been achieved and pleasure recorded. The witnesses weren't voyeurs. They were bureaucrats. Their purpose was not curiosity but control. For Isabel, this was the moment her childhood ended. She was the daughter of King Charles V of France, the king they called the Mad, and Queen Isabel of Bavaria. She had been educated for obedience. She was never meant to live her own story, only to serve as a page in someone else's. When England and France negotiated peace after years of bloodshed, the young princess became the price of the truce. King Richard, still mourning his first queen, hesitated at first, but the crown demanded it. The contract was signed, the betrothal arranged, and Isabel was sent across the channel into a future she didn't want. The wedding took place in November 1396. a glittering spectacle of banners, hymns, feasts, and gifts. But when the celebration ended, when the last cup was emptied and the guests retired, the real ritual began. They led Isabel to the bedroom and she walked in silence. Outside, the guards took their posts. Inside, the door closed and history stopped being a metaphor. History paused in that room. When the door closed behind Isabel's body, a silence filled the room, marking the beginning of her fate. She was an innocent child who had never been given time to play, now turned into a political currency. Her physical freedom had been stripped away, and her personal life was stolen in an instant. Inside the room, where not even the cold drafts could enter, every door was shut, and every gaze was trying to control her body. She looked helplessly towards the door, like the branches of a tree bending under the wind. Her heart was pounding, but she knew there was no escape. This was a moment when her body felt everything her heart had already endured. The wedding night wasn't just a physical act. It was a grand political ceremony, deliberately performed in front of witnesses to erase any doubts. After the confirmation of that night, Isabel's personal life would no longer belong to her, because her body and soul were now divided between empires. The doctors had told her that she needed to be treated scientifically. But to her, all of this felt like poison being poured into her day by day. No matter how much she cried, she knew her voice would never be heard. Then 7 days passed. For those 7 days, the body she had once chosen for herself was now used as a symbol in the bargaining of powerful empires. Every moment was documented, every state of her body recorded. When she emerged, there was a secret in her eyes, and the only thing in her steps was the exhaustion she had endured. King Richard, who was now close to Isabel for the first time, perhaps began to feel something. The fact that a 12-year-old girl had to face such an ordeal must have disturbed him. Some historical texts mention that afterward, Richard distanced himself from Isabel, but he too was in a strange pain. He had lost his first love, and now he had to share his bed with a girl he never truly knew. Historical records also reveal that Isabel's life took a new turn from that day. She had become a living document, a memorial of painful reality. Her political importance was so great that she was sent back to France, where she would try to start a new life. Yet, in her eyes, there remained that silent agony which lingers after any formal wedding. What she had endured was never spoken of, nor was her voice ever heard. Her body had become the battlefield upon which politics claimed its victory. And despite all of this, it was an unending story, not only of Isabel but of countless young girls who were used as pawns in the courts of the medieval world, in political games and treaties. The story did not mark the beginning of Isabel's life, but rather became a symbol of how countless stories like hers have been hidden in the pages of history, stories that have always been ignored. It serves as a reminder that when we reflect on the past, we must face these truths that have always been neglected. The mark of history had been permanently etched upon Isabel's body, as if her innocence had been silently stolen. She had now become a living document. Every state of her body, every reaction transformed into the calculations of politics. But it wasn't just her body that had been taken. Her soul had also become part of the covert agreement. When she stepped out from the walls of the castle, she was no longer just a royal daughter. She had become a girl whose story was buried in the pages of history. Yet the echo of that story would resonate forever, like the final crack in the fabric of fate, one that could never be filled. The girl who once dreamed of playing was now a part of history, and her silence kept her pain alive for eternity.